AEW All In 2024 at Wembley Stadium is in the books, ladies and gentlemen, so we're on the road to All Out in Chicago, less than 2 weeks away. I've got 11 matches I've predicted in total, so let's predict the match card together, shall we? Starting off with the AEW World Championship, of course, Bryan Danielson winning the big one from Swerve Strickland. I've got him going against Christian Cage. Kind of self-explanatory, Christian Cage winning the gauntlet match. A bit flat, to be honest, at the end of that match, really, but Christian Cage against Bryan Danielson does sound like a fun match and a worthy match for the AEW World Championship, and I guess Bryan Danielson would retain. The one thing that could be quite fun and appropriate with this storyline in the short term we could have to book it, Christian Cage is known for a bit of father banter, let's say, so of course Bryan Danielson had his family in attendance. Well, perhaps maybe Christian could do a scathing promo on Bryan Danielson's family if they happen to be at ringside on a Dynamite, for example, saying that the way he's going to beat down his father, perhaps they maybe won't have one to come home to. Bryan Danielson would pick up the win. I think he'll keep the title until Wrestle Dream. Moving on to the former AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland, there is unfinished business with Hangman Adam Page. Of course, Page did come over the guardrail, did distract Swerve. It did lead to the victory for Bryan Danielson as well. So there is reasoning to have Swerve and Danielson again later down the line. But first, Swerve needs to finish things off with Hangman once and for all. How do you top the matches they've done previously? They've already done like Texas Death matches and stuff like that. So the best I've thought of at the moment is potentially a lights out match. That way anything goes and it's just a fight to a finish. This match is pretty much unsanctioned. The alternative you could do is an exploding barbed wire death match. Now, the last time AEW did one of these didn't work out so well. However, there's not a reason to say you couldn't try it again and perhaps do it right the second time. Although, for me, if I had to predict at this moment, I'd be more in favour of the lights out match. But yes, Swerve Strickland would pick up the victory in my opinion because, well, I think Swerve is going to be winning the AEW World title back at Wrestle Dream from Danielson. Next, we'll go for the AEW International Championship, Will Ospreay versus Pac. Pac was supposed to be the #1 contender for the International Championship before MJF changed it to the American Championship. Well, it's an international title once again after Ospreay won the belt back at All In, and Pac being the #1 contender and already calling his shot for All Out. May have not got his Wembley moment with a singles championship, he did win the trios championships in the opening London ladders match. I think Ospreay versus Pac sounds like a dream match on paper. Two Brits that are probably going to do a fantastic job in Chicago, although I do have Will Ospreay walking away as victor. Speaking of MJF, he'll be going up against Daniel Garcia because Garcia made his return to All Elite Wrestling after that beatdown from MJF at All In, which of course was the deciding factor of how Will Ospreay managed to win that match. So we could just pick up where we left off here. Daniel Garcia, there was worries that he was going to be leaving the company. Would he re-sign or would he not? For him to make a return to TV, he must have re-signed, and now it's time to strap the rocket to Daniel Garcia. A victory over MJF here would be vital for that development and that push forward. So for me, I would have Garcia going over. MJF wouldn't lose anything in my opinion. He would help build and make a new start in the process. The only way that this would be different is if this program carries out till Wrestle Dream. But for me, as a final push here, I actually want to see Garcia push to the moon now he's re-signed with AEW. I'd even like to see him become a member of the Blackpool Combat Club, in fact replacing Bryan Danielson when Danielson finally hangs up the boots. For the AEW Women's World Championship, I've gone for a rematch from All In. The new champion Mariah defending against the former champion Timeless Toni Storm. For me, this was one of my favourite matches on All In, looking back at it. And for me, I actually was really happy that we got a new champion as well in Mariah, a brand new star seemingly born in the AEW Women's division. Of course, she's been with the company for less than the calendar year. For me, the only thing I gained from the match though was that this program doesn't feel quite finished, so I think a rematch is something that makes a lot of sense to have on the card here. Toni Storm, you'd think at some point would need her revenge at the end. It just seems to be the good versus bad way of doing the storytelling. However, I personally would keep the title on Mariah moving forward, so I would actually have May go over in the match. A match we know that will be going down is Willow Nightingale versus Kris Statlander. Of course, they were involved in a tag team match on the countdown to All In to determine who who would get to pick the stipulation. Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii picked up the victory in the tag team match over Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway, so that means Willow gets to pick the stipulation. For me, I think she'd want to keep Stokely out of the match moving forward so it can be clearly one-on-one. So I'm going to predict a steel cage match. However, as an early prediction, I think Chris Statlander might find a way to get the W. Although in my opinion, a victory for Willow Nightingale would make more sense, as you could then build her as your next #1 contender for the AEW Women's World Championship when Mariah and Toni Storm have concluded their program. Although if we're talking about future #1 contenders for the AEW Women's World Championship, what about Jamie Hayter? Of course, she made the return on All In on the buy-in after nearly 18 months on the shelf. Of course, Saraya was someone that was involved with putting Jamie Hayter out. Of course, that was the time when the Outcast was a thing. We remember them, and Toni Storm won the championship. Well, it looks like Saraya is the first one on the hit list, and I think Jamie Hayter would pick up that victory at All Out. This one, though, potentially could be a, well, if you want, a countdown match, since the fact that the return was done on the countdown as well. For the AEW Tag Team Championships, the Young Bucks to go against the Grizzled Young Vets, because, well, GYV made their appearance and made their intentions known after the tag team title match at All In. Shame they weren't actually in the match at Wembley, since the fact it was their home country. However, I think this is an exciting signing for AEW, one of the best tag team free agents out there. We are in desperate need of some fresh tag teams in the AEW tag team division, and GYV for me are a perfect fit. Bucks versus GYV for the tag team titles. I would say the Bucks should retain, however, you know me, I think I'd want the JYV to pick up the win. Rematch from Cardiff, we have Kazuchika Okada versus Claudio Castagnoli. Of course, went to a 20-minute time limit draw in the Continental Championship match. Let's make this one a no time limit, and that way we have a decisive victor. That's how I'd book the match. I think Okada, though, would be the one going over. This was a good match last time. I think they could have an even better match at All Out. Ricochet is All Elite, ladies and gentlemen, making his debut at All In during the Gauntlet match. He has got a challenge already on the table from Kyle Fletcher. Of course, Kyle Fletcher is with Don Callis at present, and Fletcher is expected to be, well, a future Will Ospreay-like athlete. You certainly can see the similarities already. This would be a great debut match for Ricochet. It's something that could be on a Dynamite, to be honest. However, for me, I would save this one for All Out, and I do think these two would have a solid encounter. I do think it's the right thing at present to keep Ricochet away from Ospreay until Wrestle Dream, because Ospreay has other commitments at present. Last but not least, TBS Championship rematch, Mercedes Monet versus Britt Baker. It didn't go as well as it could have done at Wembley, but I don't really blame the ladies entirely for this one. Yes, I think the match could have been better, but I do think it was poorly positioned on the card. It was kind of in the burnout section of the event. I don't know if other people feel this when watching, but I felt that match and the coffee match, I was a bit burnt out, and I was reserving my energy for the main event. Had this been given a better position on the card, a better amount of time, I think, and perhaps maybe a bit of a better story to deliver as well, I think this one certainly could have stood out more on the All In card. To do this one more time, to give them a chance to show that they can have great matches together, I think could be a sensible move. Mercedes versus Britt Baker one more time, however, the result would remain the same, and Mercedes would pick up the win. So that's my match card there. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below, and what matches you predict we will see at All Out 2024 in Chicago. If you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well. And check out these videos on the side of your screen right now to enjoy more content here on SCW. Thanks for watching, look after yourselves, and I'll see you for the next video.